I should have turned back the second that old rancher grabbed my wrist and said,
"Son, if you hear footsteps out there, don't you ever turn around."
His voice cracked when he said it, not like he was joking, like he was remembering something he wished he could forget, but I brushed it off, because who the hell takes a warning like that seriously? Now, I know I should have, because the moment I crossed that dusty service road outside Marfa, Texas, I felt the world shift, like the desert itself was watching me trespass. I swear the air got colder, even though it was still 90 degrees out. And if you've ever been to West Texas at sunset, you know that heat doesn't go down without a fight. But this felt wrong. I wasn't 10 steps in when I heard gravel crunch behind me. Not like a person walking, more like someone testing their weight, shifting slow, deliberate. I froze. That rancher's warning shot straight through my head, and for a second, I actually debated not turning around. But curiosity always kills me first, so I glanced back and saw nothing but open desert. Still, something felt off. You know that feeling when your gut drops for no real reason? Yeah, that. I kept walking, but every few seconds I heard it again. Just a single step, always right after I moved. And then I saw it, way past the barbed wire fence, standing dead still in the fading light. A silhouette, tall, thin, but wrong. Its arms hung too low, like they belonged to someone taller. But that wasn't the part that messed me up. What froze me to the damn ground was the way its head tilted. Slow, jerky, like it didn't understand how a neck was supposed to work. And I'm not exaggerating when I say it tilted far enough that I heard something pop in my own neck out of sympathy. I blinked just once, and it wasn't there anymore. No footsteps, no dust kicked up, just gone. And that's when my stomach dropped, because I realized something sickening. Whatever that thing was, it had gotten closer, and I didn't know it yet, but crossing that fence broke the one rule that keeps people in Marfa alive, and I was already in its territory. The moment I stepped over that sagging barbed wire fence, the temperature dropped so fast it felt like I walked into a damn freezer. Texas nights cool down, sure, but not like that. Not in seconds. Not in a way that makes your breath fog in front of your face even though the sky's still glowing orange. That was my first hint I'd messed up. My second hint came a heartbeat later, when the scent hit me. Not rot, not dead animals. Something worse, like old metal and wet dirt. The kind of smell you get from something that's been buried too long and shouldn't have been dug up at all. And that's when I realized this wasn't normal land. This was its land. I took a few steps deeper, trying to convince myself I was imagining everything. But the ground felt different here, softer, almost like walking on old carpet instead of hard desert soil. And every time I shifted my weight, I heard faint pops under the crust, like something hollow breaking beneath me. I didn't want to think about what it was. I kept telling myself I'd just look around for a minute, get some photos, and head back before it got fully dark. What I didn't realize was that I'd already crossed the point of no return. That was the last normal thought I had out there. But that plan died fast, because right around then, the footsteps came back. Not behind me this time, beside me. Just a single crunch, right at my left side, close enough that I felt the vibration through the ground. I didn't turn, God help me. I wanted to, but that rancher's voice burned in my ears.
"If you hear footsteps out there, don't you ever turn around."
My chest tightened, my hands went numb, and I forced myself to keep walking in a straight line, slow, controlled. Like prey trying not to look like prey, but whatever was next to me matched every step I took. Not ahead, not behind, perfectly aligned, like it was walking with me, not hunting, not stalking, testing. Then I heard it breathe for the first time, except it wasn't breathing, not the way anything alive breathes. It inhaled slow, dragging air through something too narrow, too stretched, like lungs that weren't built for air. The sound scraped inside my skull. My throat went so dry, I could barely swallow. And the worst part? It wasn't sniffing the desert. It was sniffing me, like it was trying to memorize me. I swallowed hard and kept my eyes forward, but panic clawed up my spine. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't just watching me, it was deciding something. And the moment I finally saw what it had been leading me toward, my legs nearly gave out, because nothing in Texas should ever look like that. I wish I could tell you I stayed calm when I finally saw what it had been guiding me toward, but the truth is, my knees were trembling so hard I thought they'd fold under me. The trail dipped into a shallow basin, like the land itself had sunk, and right in the center sat the remains of something that sent a cold wave through my gut. It looked like an old storm cellar, the kind you find on abandoned Texas ranches. Except this one was half collapsed, with its door ripped clean off. Not weathered off, ripped. The dirt around it was shredded in long, uneven gouges, as if something massive had crawled out using too many limbs. And the messed up part, the marks were fresh. That's when I remembered a lady at the diner mumbling about a cellar nobody touched anymore. She never said why. She just crossed herself and changed the subject. Standing there, staring at that torn open hole in the earth, I finally understood that she hadn't been talking about bad memories. She'd been talking about something they were trying to keep sealed. The deeper I stepped into the basin, the quieter everything became. No wind, no bugs, no distant trucks rolling down the highway. Just a suffocating silence pressing around me like the desert was holding its breath. My own breath stuttered, catching in my throat, and for a second my vision tunneled. I could feel it beside me without even looking. The weight of it, the cold, the attention. My instincts screamed at me to look, to check, to confirm I wasn't imagining the presence closing in on my left side. But I clenched my jaw and forced myself forward, terrified that turning my head would count as breaking the rancher's rule. Then it made a sound, not footsteps, not breathing, a low, deliberate click, like a tongue hitting the roof of a mouth, but deeper, thicker, intentional, a signal. And that single sound told me more than any story in town ever could. Signals mean communication. Communication means intelligence. And intelligence means intent. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't stalking randomly. I hadn't wandered into its territory. It had led me straight to this cellar on purpose. And the moment I slipped and finally broke the one rule they warned me about, that's when I learned what this thing really looked like. I don't know if my boots slipped because the dirt was soft or because my legs finally gave up. But the second my foot skidded, instinct took over. I turned my head. I broke the rule, and the thing standing beside me, it was already mid-movement, like it had been waiting for me to look. Its head snapped toward me with a sudden, unnatural jerk that made a sharp crack echo through the basin. The first thing I noticed wasn't its height or its shape, it was its skin, pale, stretched thin over bones that jutted out at angles like they were trying to escape. And the texture, God, the texture looked wrong, almost waxy, like something that had melted once and been molded back together poorly. Its limbs were long but uneven, one arm longer than the other, one shoulder raised higher, its posture twisted like it had never learned how a body should stand. But the part that froze me was the mouth, if you could even call it that. A long, horizontal slit where lips should have been, pulled tight like it was stitched shut, except for a small opening at the center. And inside, I didn't see teeth. I saw movement, like something was crawling just behind the flesh. My throat closed up so fast, I couldn't breathe. Cold sweat dripped down my back as every instinct screamed at me to run. But my feet wouldn't move. It tilted its head again, slow, deliberate, studying me the way a hunter studies a wounded deer. And then it lifted one of its two long arms and pointed not at me, not at the basin, but at the cellar, as if reminding me why it had brought me here. That slit of a mouth widened just enough for a thin, high-pitched whine to escape, a sound that rattled the inside of my skull and made my fingertips go numb. And in that moment, the sickest realization hit me. This thing wasn't angry. It wasn't territorial. It was waiting for me to go inside, waiting to see if I'd do what the others did. Because the gouges on the ground weren't from something escaping. They were from something dragged in. And when I finally looked toward the cellar and saw what was inside it, I understood why no one in that town survives this place twice. I didn't want to look into that cellar. Every part of me screamed to keep my eyes forward, to pretend this wasn't happening, to run anywhere but toward that torn open hole in the earth. But fear has a way of forcing you to stare at the worst thing imaginable, like your brain needs proof before it lets you panic. So I looked, and inside that dark pit, something moved. Not one thing, multiple things. Pale shapes shifting in the shadows, their limbs dragging against the dirt with soft, wet sounds. I took a shaky step closer without meaning to, like something was pulling me forward, and as my eyes adjusted, I saw faces, human faces, but stretched, distorted, fused into the dirt walls like they'd been forced there. Mouths opened silently, eyes wide, frozen in permanent terror. My stomach lurched so hard I almost threw up. And that's when I realized the truth. This wasn't a shelter. This wasn't a cellar. It was a feeding pit, a place where that creature dragged people in and changed them. Behind me, I heard the creature shift, its joints popping like branches under pressure. A long, wet exhale brushed the back of my neck. That was its signal, its invitation, or maybe its demand. I don't know what snapped inside me, but something primal kicked in. Survival, panic, rage. I bolted. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I just ran up the basin slope as fast as my legs would move. The ground cracked beneath me, giving way in chunks, and for a second, I thought I'd slide straight back down into that pit. But adrenaline carried me farther than I should have been able to go. Behind me, I heard that creature let out a sound I'll never forget. Half screech, half whistle, like metal grinding underwater. The kind of sound that follows you into nightmares. I didn't stop, not when the ground shook, not when I heard its impossible footsteps closing in, not even when I tripped over the fence and tore my arm open on the barbed wire. I sprinted through the desert until the highway lights finally came into view, until I collapsed on the gravel shoulder, gasping, shaking, terrified to even blink. I never went back to Marfa. I never told the cops. People disappear out there all the time, and everyone just shrugs it off as the desert swallowing them. But I know better. There's something in that basin, something ancient, intelligent, patient, and sometimes late at night, when everything's quiet, I swear I can still hear that clicking sound behind me.